Yeah, you're gonna bite your tongue off.
All right. Say, my name's Larry, and I volunteer for this.
Wait, hold on. Let me take a deep breath.
Okay.
My name Larry, and I volunteer to this. Oh! 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 Come on! Come on!
Now you get kind of gets all over. I'm so proud of you, Larry.
That's it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Barry. Yay!
Hard.
There you go.
Hey! Barry, I love you, man. I'm gone. I got released today. I love y'all, man. Thank you. Oh! Oh! Oh!
Just want to share some videos before we begin today's show. Good morning. Good morning, Hazard, Kentucky. Good morning, Eastern Kentucky. Good morning, Kentucky in general, and good morning to anyone and everyone watching outside of Kentucky. My name is Brett Johnson. This is the Brett Johnson Show. We are a show which is intent on doing the right damn thing, regardless of the consequences, regardless of sometimes if we're not all perfect, regardless of who it's against, regardless of what we need to do to make sure that people who have been voiceless, people who have been dismissed, ignored, victimized, taken advantage of, that those people are heard, that some form of justice, even though it may not occur always in the judicial, that some form of justice may take place. My name is Brett Johnson. This is the Brett Johnson Show. And while I am the person up here talking, I am not all of the Brett Johnson Show. We have a team. We are we, and it's not just people in Eastern Kentucky. It is people all over the United States. It's people wherever harm has been done, wherever the corruption of the government from the local, state to the federal has worked to protect and serve those who would seek to victimize people who they view as less than. That's what we do. That's what we do. Good morning. Running a little bit late today. I wanted to put these videos up. I wanted to start with watching that. The first video you saw was from Mississippi. It's a black man. It's a black man with disabilities, and you'll forgive me. I had a talk with Francis Everidge the other day, my cousin, and I was talking about this man with autism who had been mistreated by the Laurel County Sheriff's Office. I think it was Laurel County Police Department, one of those police agencies there, and he had been abused, slapped around, and they were laughing about it. During that show, I didn't know which words to use. You know, I didn't. I didn't want to say disabled because I was thinking at the time that, hey, you know, someone who's born if he doesn't have any legs, he doesn't know he's disabled. You know, so I didn't know what words to use, and I was struggling with that. I didn't want to offend anyone. I do want to offend those people who need to be offended. Those people who need to be roasted. But when I was talking about that, I didn't know the words to use. And Frances was talking to me about that. And she comes from, she's very adamant about protecting people, about taking care of people, about helping people. And she knew I was having trouble with that, and we were talking, and I guess the word disabled is what I'm going to say. And if I'm saying that wrong, please, someone in the comments, point that out to me, because I would appreciate it. I want to use the correct verbiage and talk about these things properly. All right, I want to do that. The video I showed you was of a mentally disabled individual, black man, who, my understanding, it was his birthday, an inmate. And the guards, in order for him to get a Coca-Cola, the guards wanted to shock his ass. And that's what you see there. You see the man for a Coke agreeing to be abused. That's a very it's a very difficult thing for me to now that I'm talking about it. It's a very difficult thing for me to sit here and share that. Because I have I've served prison time. I have seen how the justice system and the correctional system and certainly elements of the law enforcement system. I break it into three things. You know, law enforcement is there, and then you've got the judicial system, which sentences you to prison. And then you've got the correctional system, which makes sure, by God, you're in prison. I've seen how all three of those things work firsthand through my own experience. I've not been to state prison. I understand that state prison is much worse than federal prison. I have served over a year in county jails, and I've been told that that is the worst time that you can serve. And certainly in my tenure in prison, it was the worst time that I served. I'm told the state is worse than that. I'm told that in many states, Alabama being one of them, Mississippi, of course, that's where that first video was from. I'm told in Mississippi that it's bad as well. And I'm told that oftentimes, and I'm told this by people who have actually served state time in Arkansas and Alabama, Mississippi. I'm told that in many of these prisons upon entry, the inmate is oftentimes raped. I never had that problem. Yeah, I never had that problem. In my federal time and in my county jail time, I never saw anything like that. The federal security levels I was at, I started at minimum, and I went to a disciplinary medium low after my escape. And yes, there were certainly sexual activities, which I did not engage in. But those were voluntary sexual activities. You'd see 4 feet in the shower instead of 2. So I did not get to experience that, nor did I see it. But I was told many times by people who had been in state prison first that depending on the prison that you go to, if you weren't aligned or affiliated, that's the word, if you weren't affiliated, meaning if you didn't go in and already were part of a gang or immediately joined up with a gang, that you were going to be assaulted, raped. I'm told that in federal, in many maximum levels, like Big Sandy, for example, that if you don't go in and immediately join a gang, that bad things happen to you. So I've seen that. I've seen a lot of the view of the law enforcement side, the judicial side, and the incarceration or the correction side. When I got to federal prison, the majority of individuals who were locked up were African American. That man that you saw in Mississippi there, Ronald Reagan. I can be political. I can. And I have been in my past. I don't do that now because this show and what we're doing is much more important than arguing about Biden or Trump or Obama or Bush or Reagan or the war in Iran. This show takes place at this show takes place at a personal level that to me is more effective, positive, and matters more than any of that. When I went in, I said Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was responsible for a vast change in the way that mentally disabled or people who were suffering psychological problems were treated. He was responsible for shutting down a lot of the mental institutions. And because of that, the prison system became the de facto housing environment for a lot of those people. In county jails, I was in county jails in Texas, Kentucky, Florida, South Carolina, I don't know where else. And in every single county jail I saw, you had people who had those mental problems because there was no place else to put them. And so they were charged with something. And it was evident that they didn't need to be there. Yeah, they may have broken some law, vagrancy or assault or threatening a police officer or something like that. But it was evident that they did not need to be there. And what would happen would be, for a lot of those individuals, they would go in to that county jail, and the medical staff would put them on Seroquel and Thorazine and would keep them like zombies so that they would sleep most of the day or walk around kind of in a trance and in a stupor. And what would also happen is a lot of those inmates would choose not to take their medication. So they would, palm it or hide it in their mouth, and then sell those Seroquel to other inmates for honey buns, stuff like that. But what I was getting at is that the majority, not the majority, but a lot of those individuals were people who were mentally disabled or had psychological problems, and they weren't getting the proper care because our system had failed those people. When I went to, in the judicial South Carolina, I was in Columbia, South Carolina, and most of the inmates were Black, African American, most very uneducated. Most had, a lot of the Black inmates dealing in drugs, weapons. Once caught, they had it in their heads that they could be rappers, and they would rap a lot. And what I saw time and time again is that, they didn't have money for bond, so they would sit their happy asses there. And I remember to this day that a lot of those inmates, again, highly uneducated and didn't have any money, so they were given public defenders. And I say typical because I saw it frequently. What would happen is an inmate would come in on a drug charge. He would have a weapon somewhere in the house or in the vehicle, and he would be charged with that weapon, mainly. The drugs was just there, but the weapon was going to be the charge. And before he could even go in for arraignment, the public defender would go to that inmate and offer them a plea deal. And that plea deal would be, about 12 years. And the public defender would say, hey, you want to sign on this now? Now, the inmate had not even been arraigned yet. And what's important there is the inmate may have, the weapon was there, the drugs was there. It was important to have the drug charge because the weapon by itself, without the drugs, that weapon goes away. It wasn't illegal, all right? But coupled with the drugs at that point in time, that's a problem. So the public defender would say, hey, you need to go ahead and plead to this. It's a good deal, 12 years. And oftentimes that inmate, again, uneducated, poor, didn't have enough money for bond, didn't know the law, didn't realize that, hey, man, you ought to wait till at least you're arraigned. A lot of times that inmate would go ahead and sign off on it, 12 years, without ever seeing a judge. And the judge would go in on the arraignment, and the plea agreement would already be signed off, and the judge would just say, okay, let's go. And the few inmates that I saw that bucked that decided that they were going to go ahead and go through the process, oftentimes the amount of drugs was such that it didn't matter. It's a very small amount. And I still remember this one day, the public defender had came to this kid, early 20s, and said, 12 years. And the kid said no. And public defender called him a fucking idiot. Kid went to arraignment, and the charges were dismissed because the amount of weight of the drugs was minuscule. And the judge was like, you can go. And the kid walked out that day. And that is pretty telling about our judicial system. And when I went to prison, it was much the same. Federal used to be, back in the 80s, Ronald Reagan again. Back in the 80s, Fed, you hear this term, club fed, swimming pools, golf courses, stuff like that. And certainly the feds used to be like that. You used to be able to wear your street clothes. They used to be able, in the 30s and 40s, used to be able to send in shit like recliners. They would let you they would pay for your college degree if you were incarcerated. That ended, rightfully so. That ended, rightfully so, around 87, 88. And what happens at that point in time is you have these things like conspiracy charges starting to come in. And federal conspiracy, for you to be found guilty on a federal conspiracy charge, you don't have to have any physical evidence of drugs to be convicted of a drug conspiracy in the federal judicial system, a court system. What it takes is say that a kid gets arrested. They bring him in and talk to him. Now, what the feds typically rely on is people telling on each other, and they do. So they bring this kid in, and they ask the kid, and it's obvious the kid is addicted to coke, crack, meth, whatever that is, heroin. And they ask the kid, where'd you get it from? And the kid will say, maybe my name. And then they'll say, how much did you buy from him? And he's like, I don't know, a lot. It's like, well, can you give us an estimate? Well, yeah, I guess I bought an 8-ball a week. Okay, how long have you been buying from this guy? And by this point in time, it's, while uneducated, a lot of inmates are very clever, because when I say the criminal lifestyle, it's a lifestyle. It's not just a job. It's not just a career. It's your life. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And because of that, you gain this kind of criminal cleverness. And also, you've probably been interviewed by law enforcement several times during your criminal life. So you start to understand what's going on as that criminal. So they're asking him, so an 8-ball a week, how long did you buy? So then that guy is starting to realize, oh, okay, yeah. And he'll say, well, man, I guess I bought from Brett a couple of years. So that's one story against, say, if I was dealing drugs or wasn't. That's one story against me. Then they arrest another guy. And they'll ask him, while they're interviewing him, have you ever heard of Brett Johnson? And he'll say, because again, he's been through this before. He'll say, yeah, I've heard of him. You ever buy anything from him? Well, yeah, man, I used to buy all kinds of stuff off of him, like crack and meth and heroin. How much did you buy? I don't know, man, a lot. Well, how much did you buy? I don't know, 8-ball every 2 days. Well, for how long? For 3 years. So that's two people saying they both bought drugs from, say, me. So what they do is, that's what's called ghost dope. What they do is the feds at that point in time, they add up how much weight that would be. One guy says an 8-ball a week for 2 years. They add up that 3.5 grams a week times that. Then the other guy, an 8-ball every 2 days. They'll add that up over a couple of years. And that's the weight that I would be charged with. And I would be found guilty. And I would be sentenced on that weight regardless of whether I'd done it or they found anything or not. Okay. Now, granted, a lot of the people certainly a lot of the people that were charged, they were involved in drugs. But the point is that you don't have to have a whole lot of tangible evidence if you've got a lot of people or some people corroborating it. And that's what happens with the conspiracy charges in the federal system. The result of that was a lot of black people coming into the feds. And what was happening was, and what's still happening today, and I know we've had a lot of people trying to change like crack cocaine laws and stuff like that. But what happens is typically the people who are involved in or convicted of conspiracy charges, those people are users, they're addicts. And they were probably, oftentimes they had to sell some of the stuff that they were using or drugs for other people in order to feed their own habit and survive. And those are the people who are largely convicted of conspiracy in the federal system. At the same time, and I know some federal prosecutors today, and I'm friends with some, and they were outstanding people, but a lot of federal prosecutors, it's important that they have a conviction rate, that they're successful. And the federal system has about an 87% plea out rate. You know, if you're charged with something, there's about 87% of all individuals who are charged federally, they just plead guilty. And the reason is that they'll come to you. And I saw this working with the Secret Service. I saw that there was a mortgage fraud scheme that was going on in Columbia, South Carolina. And the feds had them dead to rights. The plea agreement came across of, hey, you guys can plea. We'll give you 17 months, or you can take it to trial. Well, these guys, they thought they were smart. They had good lawyers. They said, fuck you, pick 12. They did. And they got about 9 years apiece. That's why the plea is so popular, because in federal, they'll give you, this is what we'll agree to, because we don't want to spend the money to prosecute you because it's expensive. And because, you know, the prosecutor, there's always a chance, especially if it's something technical like internet stuff, it's very difficult for a prosecutor to get a jury to understand a lot of the tech that's involved in cybercrime. It's very iffy. And if they don't understand it, there's a very good chance that a good defense lawyer can sow enough doubt with that jury that it comes back not guilty. So they'll offer a very decent plea agreement instead of picking 12. And if you take it to trial, they're going to hit you as hard as they can, and they do. So about 87% of federal people charged plea out. If you take it to trial, the conviction rate is about 98%. So they're very good in what they do. Now, that being said, federal authorities tend to be outstanding when they charge somebody. When they charge somebody, they tend to have a lot of evidence. All right. Prosecutors, when they go and follow through with that, because of the way law enforcement works and because of that melding with the prosecution, you see that it's typically a lot of poor people who are charged. There's a reason for that. The reason is that those poor people, they don't have the money for a proper defense. So they're given a public defender. And a lot of those people are of certain ethnicities. They're Black. They're Hispanic. You don't have a lot of white people. I mean, you do, a lot of meth people, some cocaine people. That's what you've got. And so we see going through the court systems, a lot of people of color, a lot of uneducated people, a lot of poor people, because that guarantees a lot of success for those prosecutors and for those law enforcement people. I was living in Charleston, South Carolina, and it was apparent. And you can see this in California. You can see it throughout a lot of the states, that they make sure that the crime happens in one specific area. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. Crime and Birmingham, Alabama, it's separated north and south by a railroad track. North of that railroad track, it's 99% African American. South of that track, it's about 98% Caucasian. So if you've ever wondered where living on the wrong side of the tracks, that expression comes from, now you know. In the 1960s, there was a senator that called Birmingham Little South Africa. They burned churches here. Law enforcement in a lot of areas, they're very good at making sure that crime is cordoned off to specific areas, to neighborhoods, so that it doesn't, encroach on the rich white people. All right. I'm just telling you the truth here. All right. I'm not trying to be political. I'm not trying to do anything like that. I'm not. I have seen, we saw this guy, and we're going to talk about this man with autism, who the police brutalized, and we're laughing about him. We're going to talk about that. Now I'm going to make some phone calls. I don't know. I planned on getting on the show today and having a lot of fun. Maybe we still will. I don't know. I know that watching that video of that black man shocked for a Coca-Cola brought back a lot of memories for me in during my time being locked up. I spent, 7, 8, 9 months. I don't really remember, in county jails in Columbia, South Carolina. Rightfully so. There was a guard. His last name was Golson, Golson. And the people in the county jail absolutely feared that man, the inmates. And the reason why is it had been, I don't know, maybe 15 years before I got there. There had been a jail escape, and Golson was one of the guards that was on duty during that escape. There were 2 guards, and the 2 inmates that escaped, they killed the other guard, and they slit Golson's throat, and he survived. Golson was then allowed, and it should have never happened. A traumatic experience like that, that guard, that law enforcement officer should never be allowed back in to associate with people that, inmates again after that, or on the street, doing his duty. He shouldn't be allowed that, because it's so traumatic, because, it has consequences. The consequence for Mr. Golson, or Guard Golson, was that he became a very sadistic a very sadistic person. And everyone there feared the man. But you have to remember, again, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of people with mental disabilities. There's a lot of people who are uneducated, who are poor, who have attitudes and egos. And I remember Golson, he had that taser on his belt all the time. And if any inmates would start to fight, because there are a lot of fights in county jails, there are a lot. Someone owes you a honey bun, you're going to try to beat their ass. Someone, you've got someone that's just in there on a DUI charge, and he's crying about serving a weekend or a week, and how his life is over. Meanwhile, you've got a guy 2 bunks down that's been sentenced to 30 years. Well, that 30-year guy doesn't want to hear a damn thing about you serving a week. He's going to beat your ass about it. And Golson, when he would see these altercations, he loved getting that taser out and shocking people and beating them. He loved it. I remember those steel doors, which you used to be able to do. We didn't have bars. We had these steel doors. What you used to be able to do is you could take your plastic spoon and you could pop the doors open and run around in the pod. And there were kids that were doing that. These black kids, black men, young. And they were caught. And so what Golson does is he puts them in cuffs, he puts them in leg chains, and he puts them back in the cell for 3 days. For 3 days, in the cuffs and in the ankle cuffs, the leg chains. And what happens is, when you're in those cuffs like that, it cuts off the swelling. I mean, it cuts off the flow of blood. So your hands and your feet start to swell. And of course, you can't wipe your ass or anything like that because, how you going to wipe? So he left them like that for 3 days. And what will happen is as your hands and your feet start to swell, they start to leak. And after a while, they may split open, change color, and all that. That kind of stuff is not particularly uncommon. The way that law enforcement abuses people, and that's not all law enforcement. I met some very, very decent law enforcement officials. The vast majority of cops are very good people. They truly are. The vast majority of guards are either, nonchalant or good people. Those who are sadistic and who use their position of authority to mistreat others. There's not a whole lot of them, but they're there. They're there. Now, we had and people have argued about this since it happened. And they've called the guy a drug addict. They've said that the cop did not kill him. They've said he deserved it. They've said all kinds of things. And just the mention of his name causes people to argue and curse and say he deserved it and he was a criminal and he got what he needed and he was an addict anyway and he died of fentanyl and all this other bullshit. But the truth of the matter is that George Floyd had a cop kneel on his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Yeah, he was a criminal. Yeah, he may have had fentanyl in his system. Any number of things like that. But that cop kneeled on his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds until the man died, calling his mother's name. Again, that's not something that, I've never seen a cop kill someone before. I've seen a cop beat people. I was in Charleston, South Carolina, and if you were arrested by the North Charleston Police Department, what they oftentimes did, depending on who arrested you, and if you were black or drunk, if you were at least a bit belligerent, what they would often do is they would take you to the old naval base. They would get you out of the vehicle, and they would absolutely beat the dog shit out of you. And you would arrive at the county jail pretty broken up. I've seen stuff like that. The point I'm trying to make, you can be a criminal. And yeah, you need to be arrested and taken off the streets so At the very least, you don't victimize or hurt anyone else. But when you're arrested, and when law enforcement is arresting you or prosecuting you through judicial or making sure that you're incarcerated in the correction system, it's their duty, it's their job, their responsibility. Even though you may be an asshole, it's their responsibility to make sure that even though you're a bad guy, you may be a piece of shit, that you're protected, that harm does not befall you. And sometimes that doesn't happen. You know, it doesn't happen with, it was a black man who is shocked for a Coca-Cola because he didn't have the money to buy one, because he was mentally disabled. It was slow. He was slow. And the guards got a laugh out of that. Yeah, we'll give you a Coke if you'll let us do this to you. And the guy, you know, he probably wanted one so bad, you know, probably. And I've seen this before, you know, probably he had been begging everybody in the unit he was at. And they had given him stuff, but they had gotten tired of him begging. And they were like, fuck no, fuck you, fuck that. We're not going to give you anything else. So people got tired of him. The other inmates did. So he doesn't have any other thing. And he starts talking to the guards, begging them. And finally, they're like, okay, yeah, man, we'll give you one if you let us tase you. And they got a laugh out of that. You know, it was Laurel County cops. Man with autism. A man with autism who you know, there are people out there who their thought processes, the way their minds work, they are not the same. You know, we have the ability to communicate properly, to make sense, to do things that some people simply are not. These cops choose to assault this man. And here's the thing. Yeah, I've not watched all of the video. I mean, I have, but someone can be combative. They can be resisting. They can be in any number of things like that. If they're being arrested during this point and they're doing that, yes, law enforcement, they need to use just the amount of force that they have to get that person subdued and, you know, on his merry way. That doesn't entitle him. That means you can't use excessive force. All right, you can't. You're not supposed to, you know, continue to kick someone when they're down. And we've seen videos like that before where in law enforcement, I've seen videos of law enforcement pistol whipping a guy as he's down on his stomach, his hands behind his back, and the cop's wearing a guy out with his pistol. No, you're not supposed to be doing that. That is a show that's not supposed to happen ever. And we've got a lot of people think that people in the military make very good law enforcement officials. That's simply not true. It's not. The military does not train you for a law enforcement career. Law enforcement is about serving and protecting. Serving and protecting. The military is not about that. The military is about breaking things. All right? Killing, winning, defeating. That's not what law enforcement's about. But people, a lot of people tend to think it is, and they think that because you're in the military, you'll make a good cop. It's not true. You have to have an understanding and appreciation and know what being a cop is about. Okay, you have to know that. I'm going to check the comments. I'm going to say hello. I want to call. Jeff Campbell and talk about that as well. I've got some stuff ready for that. And again, I started this morning. I've been up for a while. Got up, I think, at I don't know, 5 o'clock Eastern time, so 4 o'clock, Alabama time, and was running late because of some personal stuff with my girlfriend Lindsay, and I adore her. She's great, but she's having some issues right now, and I'm trying to figure all that out. And I'd wanted to come on this show, and my intent, I was going to get the damn puppet down, and we were going to have a hell of a fun day roasting some people, and it may still turn out that way. I don't know. But as I was playing that video of that black man, it got a lot more sober than probably it should have. But this is serious stuff. I've been told I've been on the good guy side for over a decade, and my moral compass over that decade has increasingly grown stronger. When I first started out, my moral compass was like this. My moral compass was like this. I wasn't breaking the law, but, I was just starting to learn what it meant to be on the good guy side, or what it was supposed to mean. I said yesterday that, or the day before yesterday, I said that, those people that, we roast a lot of people, and we've got a lot of what I call bootlickers, those people who support like Donald Mombolini or Chris Jones or Scott Alexander. And I said, and those people support, and they are really adamant that, those are good guys, regardless of the bullshit they've done. And I said, at some point in the future, the people who have been, the bootlickers, they might realize they've been on the wrong side, and they come over, and it's those people that come over. They shouldn't be shunned. They should be embraced, because it's those people who are who become the most devout. Think about Christianity. Think about all those party goers. All those guys used to be drunk and criminals and addicts. And then they have that conversion, like Paul. They have that conversion, and they are these devout Christians, and they mean it. So that's what happens. When you be on the bad guy's side. I make that conversion. I'm pretty damn devout. Back when it started, I like I said, that moral compass, I wasn't breaking the law, but it was trying to find its way. And I was learning what that meant. But over the years, that moral compass has It's gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better. My motivations are not, I like money. I mean, who doesn't? I like money. But my motivations are not cash-based motivations anymore. I make my money through consulting and speaking, and I could make a shit ton of money if I kept my fucking mouth shut. But I don't. I'm like one of the only people, maybe the only person in the cybersecurity industry and the fraud prevention industry that, regardless of who it is, I'll call it out. I'll say political things if I see something wrong, not because I have a political slant, but because of that moral compass, because of that hypocrisy, because as the years have went on, doing the right damn thing means something. And because of that, I don't make the money I could. Because of that, I've lost contracts and friends and speaking gigs and consulting gigs. But I refuse to be that person that keeps his mouth shut while something's going wrong. When, I just refuse to do that. I can't. For years, I was a criminal and I was a liar. I lied to family, to friends, to people that I thought that I loved. I lied to myself for money, to commit crime. And I can't do that anymore. I can't keep my mouth shut when something is wrong. So we call that out. I call that out. And there are consequences. Make no mistake, there are consequences. But at the same time, I am horribly, horribly respected. People know in those industries, in law enforcement, fraud, cybercrime, cybersecurity, they know that when I say something, that is true. They know that. And I'm respected because of it. My girlfriend right now, her parent and her sisters and some other people, they're trying to use my past as a way to say that she is a danger to her children. And they're adamant about that. And when I saw the paperwork on that, I was shocked. I was. And make no mistake, I understand, Shit, he used to be United States Most Wanted. Shit, it looks like he invented cybercrime. Shit, he escaped from prison. Shit. I get it. All right, I get it. But at the same time, you can't not Google me and see a man who is intent on doing the right thing and on helping others. But they're choosing not to. It's choosing not to see that. So, I told Lindsay's lawyer, I was like, look, man, I said, I can literally bring in hundreds of character references. I can, from law enforcement to victims that I've helped, to CEOs, across the planet. I can produce those quickly. I mean, and he was like, man, it won't matter. It's okay. I'm okay. But, it bothers me. It bothers me because I used to be a horrible guy, but I'm the same guy, but I'm not that person anymore. I've grown. I've understood. I work hard to help, not hurt. And by and large, everybody knows that. If you're in any of those industries, if you're in any type of law enforcement that has any connection to cyber whatsoever, you know who Brett Johnson is. You know that. They've taught about me in classes. Books. I'm in books about this bullshit, about turning my life around and all this other stuff. And I was talking to an individual in federal law enforcement the other day. And I asked him, and it's crazy. Here's what's crazy, all right? Usually, and when I say usually, it's about 100% of the time. Usually, if you ask what I asked this man, and I asked him, I was like, hey, I've got this going on. Is it possible that because the judge in this matter, he will probably want to reach out to the feds and ask, is it possible that, that you may be able to affirm something or say something? And I said, and I don't care what you say, positive, negative, I don't give a damn. But is that possible? Now the answer is supposed to be no, I can't do that. You have to go through channels. That's the answer. That's supposed to be the answer. And because of the work that I've done and what I do with law enforcement and in this industry, these industries that I'm in, because I don't just do things for fucking money. I do it because it's the right thing to do. Because of that, this federal law enforcement official, he was like, he can call me direct. That is absolutely unheard of. Yeah, we're not talking about a lot of Eastern Kentucky today, and I'm sorry about that. I'm going to look at the comments, or I've seen the comments. I've seen the comments, flowing up. So, Coca-Cola, I didn't have to get shocked to get one. The thing is that I've had a lot of people in my life tell me that I've got a lot of demons. Hell, I think Francis has told me that. Francis Everidge has told me that a few times too. And I do. I made the conscious decision several years ago. I didn't want to spend a lot of time talking to therapists. I wanted to have my therapy be public. That was a conscious decision on this idiot's part. I wanted to do podcasts and interviews and speak from a stage and work through these problems and overcome these demons in a very public way, as public as I could be. because to me, I'd always hidden things, and that to me, it was almost like a degree of hiding with a therapist and sharing these secrets. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to just see if I could take care of a lot of that myself. And I have taken care of some of it. Francis has helped me immensely recently, especially that one comment of don't let your younger former self control yourself that you are now. That's an outstanding remark that she gave me. She said it better than I did. And certainly this show, the way this show is now, has helped me as well. Truly has. It helped me. I out of the gate, I responded that, out of the gate, I responded that I was a good guy. And I did that because I knew, I sensed that it would, I sensed that this show and what we were doing with Emily and Clark and it gets Noah back, I sensed that if I didn't finally admit to myself and everyone else that I was a good guy, that it would matter. So that's what I did. But yeah, I've got these demons, I've not bothers me to no end the damage that I've done over the years. Bothers me to no end on that. Of course, there's the childhood as well. I think I've come a long way dealing and processing with that. But all of that stuff, those are those demons. And, I think I'm doing all right with that. I do. I think I'm doing all right with that. I use the guilt to help drive me to do better. I use that guilt to do things like, what we're doing on this show. It's what I do. It's what I do. So we're going to look at the comments and try to not be as weepy. And we're going to talk about Laurel County. See if we've got time after that to, and we're going to talk about Jeff Campbell and see what it goes. I don't think we're going to get to the dog shelter thing today. Not that that's not important. It is. But just it got to me today. All right. So let's look at the comments and say some good mornings since shit, Brett, you've not even said good morning to people yet. I know. All right. Caitlin Watson, good morning. Hope you're doing all right. Jennifer Couch, good morning. Lori, good morning. Howard Sumner. Pookie's over there somewhere. Howard Sumner, good morning. Brett and Pookie, good morning, everyone. Give me a cough drop. Hopefully clear up the snot that's going on a little bit. Howard, man, I think you're great. I truly do. I think you're great. Vivian Cottle, good morning. Brenda Taylor, good morning. Blue Dodger, good morning. Tammy Miller, good morning, Brett and Pookie. Hope you are doing well. This show is my favorite part of my day. You rock. And we're, of course, late this morning. I can't believe I was late. I cannot believe that. I was just thinking about things and my girlfriend and everything that's going on, and got to get some money in, and all this stuff and getting ready and then pulling all the, those videos. I was looking for that video because I'd seen it a few months back of that guy getting shocked and then understanding, realizing it was hitting me, seeing everything that I went through and remembering that I was late. Stephanie Smith, good morning. Erica Cooley, good morning. Susan Reeder, all right. How's Jet? Neil Singleton, how you doing, man? The weather getting nasty that way last night. I after my divorce, I moved into an apartment and couldn't really. I couldn't hear anything. I guess it got pretty bad. My little pup, I've never had a dog before that's been scared of a storm. This little guy, he's the most timid little animal that I've ever seen. He's great. He loves the hell out of me. He's over. I see him now. He's over asleep in his bed. He gets scared, so I had to stay up with him and pet him and calm him down until it passed and everything. And of course, he heard everything. I did not. Lana K. Sandlin, good morning. Donna Campbell, good morning. Abby and Charlie Murphy, good morning from Vico. Good morning to you. Deborah Noble Brown, all right. Zach Thomas, the guards that did that neither asses beat. I absolutely agree with you. As an advocate for special needs children, this upsets me, as it rightfully should. Prayers for you. It's hard and hits home in so many ways. You get the job you're doing. Amazing job. Tanya Gay, good morning. Peggy Logan, I call it special needs, and I would not be able to take watching that be done to anyone without me being very verbalized about it. Yeah, I know. Another wonderful day the Lord has made. Let's rejoice in his grace and goodness. Thank you for that. Thank you for that thought. That's very good. I appreciate that. And good morning to you, Jeanette Hall. Neil Singleton, county jail time sucks bad. Also, guards will do things to inmates like a spray just to get a kick or amusement out of it. I have absolutely seen that. And so I'll tell you a story about another special needs guy in Rowan County, Kentucky. In just a minute, it's much more humorous. That may lighten. I guess that would lighten the mood a little bit. Okay. I think maybe we need the mood lightened for a couple of minutes. I didn't give any vent for people to let steam off during those 30 minutes of me talking. Loretta Williams Sloan, good morning. So sad it's the South. I'm from Mississippi, and hey, it's not just the South. New York is notorious at Rikers for bullshit like that happening. I love to see your vulnerability. We all are, but many choose to hide it. Yeah, I can't really hide things anymore, yeah. It's not just in jails, it's in the hospitals too. I was in the ER and witnessed an elderly woman with dementia get treated so badly. She had no family with her and ripped my heart out. She didn't understand. A black man laughing as he's drinking his Coca-Cola or eating his pie or whatever he had there. Didn't understand the degree of brutality that those guards had done and the amusement that they got from victimizing that man and how they viewed him as not even human, as less than they are. And that's the thing, right? I mean, this is what we're doing on this show. Child rapists, child predators, rapists, the people who protect them, not only Perry County, but in Laurel and Leslie throughout the United States, the people who protect these individuals, the people who prosecute a lot of these individuals, a lot of the time, those people do not view the others as even human. They view them as less than, not equal, as, because you're a different skin color, because you look different, because you think different, because you speak different. you're poorer, you're uneducated, you're not as educated as I am, you're not from the same country or neighborhood. They view you as less. And that's simply not true. It's not true. It's just that you've been blessed differently than they have. You know, education. I mean, yeah. I mean, just because you are higher, you know, have a higher level of education doesn't make you better than someone else. Just because your bank account has more dollars in it doesn't make you better, or you speak differently, or have an accent, or don't have an accent, or are homeless or not. It doesn't make you better or less than someone else. It doesn't. But a lot of these people think that we live in a society where a lot of people they gain their value by, you know, putting other people down, by victimizing other people. You know, that whole victimization thing of you know, raping a child, or railroading someone, or raising their water bill from $30 to $900. That whole thing is a statement of how those individuals view the people they are victimizing as not people. They're to be taken advantage of, is what they say. And that's what, to a large degree, that's what this show is about. It's about those people who have been victimized, that are not viewed as even being, you know, completely people, or completely human, or not equal. And that's why I often say, you know, we're born into this world naked and a dumbass, and we leave this world naked and a dumbass. All Avatar, Hail the Apocalypse is a song. All flesh is equal when burned. All of it. All of it. All of it. Thje, this truly upsets me that this was done to this man. But what really works on my brain is how many officers and those in authority positions don't get shit done to them. Yeah. Patricia Combs, I've been in double max. First day, I got a guy killed. I've been in double max. First day, a guy got killed for changing the TV. This is for real. Yeah, hey. So just for those who haven't been incarcerated, I don't know how it works in state system. In federal system, you know, those floor tiles, you get 4 of those. That's where your chair sits. That's where your chair sits. Now, you don't go. If you're a new inmate coming into prison, you don't just pop your ass in the TV room and sit wherever the hell you want to sit. Chances are somebody's got that spot. You ain't going to do that. You ain't going to do that. They might tell you one time, get the fuck up. All right. Those TV rooms, they're kind of grandfathered in. All right. Somebody's got a spot. That's his spot. All right. Changing the channel. Usually a vote. Usually you go, if it's, you got a white room, you got a black room, you got a Hispanic room. If you're lucky, a Hispanic room. All right. If you're lucky. Sometimes there's a vote. Sometimes sports is what, if by God, is going to be on there if there's sports, especially if there's NASCAR, something like that. You get up of your own accord. You know, you think you're that guy that's going to get up and just change the channel. You got another thing coming. All right. First, they're going to look at you. What the fuck are you doing? And if you back talk and run your mouth, chances are, like you know, like this person says here, guy got killed for changing the TV. That shit happens. That shit happens. Yeah, I've said that prison can be a very beneficial thing. It can. But make no mistake, prison is a dangerous place. All right. Michael Semester. He actually texted me during the show. There's no time for decency these days. Due process and compassion have all been corroded. You're absolutely right. Cricket Constable from Clay County, Tyrone Salyers, was in Hazard buying gas station, THC pins. I bet this is where his girlfriend's daughter. And we're going to talk more about that. David, I'm not sure if we're going to get to it today. But yeah, we're going to talk more about that. Michael, again, this is hard for you, and it makes it hard for us too. I know that most deserves half of the punishment they deserve. Half deserve more. And no one is compelled to and beholden to doing the right thing. They are incentivized by base things and excused because of the impossible nature of the cages made by man and the way they must be navigated. That's a wise statement from Michael Semester. He's a friend of mine that lives in Utah, and he's a very good man. He's a very good man. Roger Begley, I've been there. Jails are awful. They treat you like shit. I've been clean 1.5 years, and congratulations on that, Roger. Truly, congratulations on that. Been clean 1.5 years, and I'm done with that lifestyle. I've done a lot of bad, and I regret it. But it is what it is. And all I can do is do better each day. And I'm going to tell you something right now. That man, I know he means it. He gets it. He gets it. He absolutely gets it. A lot of the time, and I've seen this over and over and over again, a lot of the time you get a criminal out there that it's that criminal lifestyle. And they get their ass out of prison, or they get their ass out of trouble, and they find a legal way to make a living, to make money, but they still continue that criminal lifestyle. They still live like the criminal. They have still the same process, thought processes, but they're financing their life in a legal way. To me, that doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Not a damn. You take Mr. Begley here. He gets it. He gets it. And I know that out of the gate by reading his comment. 1.5 years, I'm done with that lifestyle. He knows what I'm talking about. It's not just making a legal living. It's changing that mindset and the way you view humanity and what you want to do with your life. That's the change. That's what matters. That's what matters. And he also understands, he regrets what he did. And you also know I'm the same way. I regret what I did. I can't change that. You can't fix that shit. You can't. But what you can do, and what he says, is I can do better each day. I've done that in the past. I can't fix that. But I can do better each day going forward. That's the change. That's what you look for. That's what you look for. You want to know if someone has become or trying to become a better individual. That's the mindset that needs to be there. That's it. Nothing else, just that. Gail Cornett, after watching that video and watch those cops laugh about smacking that poor man, hurt my heart. Come on, London, you can do better. Get rid of them all. Oh, there we go. Francis Everidge. I thought I saw you popping up in the comments. He was handcuffed behind his back in the back of the car, spit mask on, and that cop smacked him hard right in the fucking face. Then proceeded to laugh about it and make fun of him. Simply the truth. To top it off, she says they knew he had autism. They say it in the video, and they didn't care. Now, I'm going to call, and that may be all we have time for today. I'm going to call the Laurel County law enforcement, the agency, and try to talk to them. I don't know if I'll roast their ass or not, but I'm going to try to just talk to them. The individual, the victim that those cops did that to, they didn't ask him. They didn't ask him. They didn't walk up to him and say, hey, I know you got autism. Yeah. You mind if we slap the shit out of you some so we could have some fun and entertainment? They didn't ask him that. He didn't have a choice. He didn't have a choice. And a cop against someone that's been arrested, you've got less than a choice because if you try to fight or protect yourself while they're doing that bullshit to you, you're going to get a higher charge, assaulting an officer. You're going to serve a lot more time because of that. So you even have less than a choice if you're in a position like that. Those cops gave that man no choice in the matter. They just did it. Yet, when it comes time for those cops to be disciplined, they were given a choice. You can get fired or you can resign. Why? That, someone who's, I was never given a choice. All right. When I was arrested, I wasn't given the choice of, hey, you want to go to prison or you want to go home? You want to keep doing it or you want us to stop you? They didn't give me a choice. Yet, these cops, who obviously did not do the right damn thing, these cops were given a choice about their careers. We can fire you or you can resign. Something's wrong with that mindset. And someone made a comment up above. Why are very few of these cops ever really disciplined or really anything ever done to them? And that's because we have this environment of protection. And a lot of the time, like I mentioned George Floyd. A lot of the time, you have people in the population that aren't cops that see, he was a criminal. If he didn't want to die, he shouldn't have broke the law. If he didn't want to get slapped around some, he shouldn't have been doing what he was doing. If he didn't want to get brutalized, he shouldn't have been autistic. That's the exact same friggin' process, right? It's the same thought process. You just have to take it to the absurd. If he didn't want to be slapped around and made fun of, he shouldn't have been autistic. That makes no fucking sense whatsoever. If he didn't want to have his neck kneeled on for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, he shouldn't have broke the law. No. That also makes no damn sense whatsoever. If he wasn't begging for a Coca-Cola, well, he wouldn't have been shot. Again, no damn sense whatsoever. People in positions of power have a responsibility. They have a weight. And they should understand the weight of that responsibility and how accountable that is and what that means, not only for their position, but the people that they're protecting and also the society at large. That's why we raise so much hell about Perry County, about why we denigrate those people that are in positions of power, those corrupt individuals, that entire system right there that serves to protect people like Noah Back while Emmeline Clark is dead and her family is suffering, wanting justice. Those positions matter. They come with an accountability that matters, a responsibility that should be understood what it means and then used in the manner it's meant to be used. And it's not. It's not. As you see, Francis is very adamant. They need to be in jail. If I did that to someone, I would be. Not that I ever would, because I have a fucking heart and a conscience. I am so angry. It's a lot, Brett. We understand. We feel sad and deeply hurting. And people have absolutely agree with Francis as well. Then they were given a choice to resign or get terminated. I was just talking about that. What a choice. He didn't have a choice. I guess she and we are sharing somewhat the same brain today. He didn't get a choice to get brutalized. Why do they get a choice for assaulting him? Absolutely right. Frankenberry. I have an autistic teenager, and I worry myself sick about him every day. The fact is, police are people, and people today in general have turned much colder. It's sad. This. We may not get to call the Laurel County PD today, or even get to Jeff County. We may not, because this conversation, I think it's setting up for those calls tomorrow. All right. Because what we're talking right now, to me, it's important. It's important. This mindset, the things that are going on. Frankenberry is telling the truth. People today, in general, have turned much colder. You know, we how many years have we been told to think about yourself? You know, nobody's going to help you but you. Think about yourself. We're to the point that a lot of times we don't know our neighbors. We don't speak to them. We don't help them. Hell, sometimes we don't even know our kids. We come home, you know, these days, if the family has two parents, a lot of the times those parents have to work full-time jobs to put food on the table and pay the rent or the mortgage or the car payments. And they're probably struggling to do all of that. And sometimes those parents come home and they get on the cell phone, or that parent comes home or they get on the cell phone because it's been a long day. Don't want to put up that shit. And sometimes they give the cell phone to their kids as a babysitter. So sometimes you don't even know what's going on in your own home, and much less know or care about your neighbor. And you know, we've become a society, and we see the government, we see these institutions that signal, you know, this uncaring, this colder mentality toward the things that are going on, and it bleeds down. I guess it bleeds up at the same time. And then you do get these people in positions of power that absolutely abuse their position for profit or fun or power, or to protect those that can benefit them most. We've become more and more that society. We have. You're absolutely right, Frankenberry. You're absolutely right. We've become more and more a colder society. And I understand. I get it. I mean, Jeff Shartlett wrote a book called The Family. It's a really good book. Shartlett's done some other really good books as well. That's the one that sticks in my mind the most. And he's talking about the Christian revival in the United States. And so in high school, typically, I don't know if they teach it anymore in high school or not. Shit, they may not. But sinners in the hands of an angry God. And I think the preacher was Jonathan Edwards. What that did is it causes a Christian revival throughout the United States. So, you know, like Christmas Carol, for example. Christmas Carol, you know, the three ghosts of Christmas and Ebenezer Scrooge, that kind of revitalizes Christmas. People really didn't give a shit about Christmas before Christmas Carol. I mean, they did, but not really. All right. Christmas Carol, though, that gets the message across. People start to celebrate Christmas, and then Coca-Cola comes along and like that. Okay. What Jonathan Edwards does with sinners in the hands of an angry God is kind of akin to that. Christianity was like, but when he comes up and he says, sinners in the hands, and he starts to preach this bullshit, and I call it bullshit because that's what it was. When he starts to preach this bullshit, and he paints God as a very angry individual, a very angry God, and how you're lucky to be saved by God. You're just vermin, and you're a sinner and blah, 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 blah. And he scares you to death. It's basically scaring you into converting into Christianity. And it was horribly effective, horribly effective. These days, it's the prosperity gospel. And you see these movements throughout Christianity. You see that, Catholic Church was there and they had a stranglehold on everything, and they were becoming extremely rich, blah, blah, because that was the only church that was around. Then you got Martin Luther says, fuck no. And he posts those 95 theses on the wall, and it changes Christianity. You have another movement because now the kings can say, oh, we can still go to heaven and we can divorce and keep our shit. So it changes things as this starts to die out again. And then you have sinners in the hands of the angry God, which causes a new revivalism of Christianity. And today you've got the prosperity gospel, which says, hey, yeah, Jesus wants you to make money. That's right. That's what the Bible says. And it doesn't. It doesn't. All right, it doesn't. It leads into what Frankenberry is saying about becoming a colder society. That's exactly what the prosperity gospel does, but it makes sure the pews are filled. And you add on, 30 minutes of songs and a 10, 15-minute sermon. So people are like, yeah, hallelujah, hallelujah, yeah. And they're singing along, they're tapping their feet, shaking their ass, all this other stuff. And they hear, how you're supposed to be rich and people are supposed to be poor. And that helps to fill the pews. Now, that's not the point of the book. But you have these movements throughout Christianity that does this kind of stuff. What Jonathan Edwards does, and that's in high school, they don't teach it like that. They simply tell you what Jonathan Edwards was, and you read Sermons in the Hands of an Angry God, and you read it, and you don't understand it. You don't get it. And it says, it caused a revivalism in Christianity. Okay, and it did. What Charlotte does, though, in his book, is he actually tells you some of the consequences of that. And it matters. It matters. Right? And so sinners, what actually happens during sinners, and you have these big tent revivals, what happens is, and it's crazy because it just didn't happen in one state, in one revival. What actually happens is people start to get up. They consider themselves saved at that point in time, that they are now redeemed. And some of these people, during the actual revival under the tent, they would take out a knife and they would slit their own throats. That's what would happen. Now, you don't learn that bullshit in high school, if they even still teach sinners in the hands of an angry God. You don't learn that shit because that's a little disturbing, because kids don't need to know the actual truth. So you don't learn that. And you have to learn that later if you care to. Right? If you care to. But you see these types of movements, and all of that, the point I'm trying to make is all of that has very little to do with the actual Bible or what Christianity was supposed to be. Has very little to do with the Catholic Church. Fuck no, they don't have much to do with what this is actually saying. It doesn't. Martin Luther gets closer to it, but it doesn't really have much to do with the shit either. All right. Certainly Jonathan Edwards and sinners, no, I'm afraid not. And the prosperity gospel of today, and that concert type of environment that many churches have in order to bring people in. Hey, church is fun. It's fun. We're not going to really, talk on anything heavy, because if we do, people get depressed on that shit. And we don't want to get them depressed. We want to leave them with Buddy Christ instead of the real Christ. That's what they do today. All right. To me, this book, and people may get their own messages from it, and you should. To me, this book is about change. It's about redemption, because it says it. All right, it's about change and redemption, becoming a better person, and then what else? Because we say it all the time. And that's what I say. I don't care if you're Christian or not, because the ideas in this matter to everyone. The idea of being able to change, that idea of redemption, that idea of loving your neighbor, of understanding who you are, and then loving your neighbor as you should love yourself. That idea of knowing your neighbor. You see this right here, what Frankenberry is saying. People today have turned much colder. That idea of treating, of loving your neighbor as yourself, and doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. Those cops don't know that, or they don't give a fuck. A lot of society doesn't know that. A lot of parents don't know that. When they come in and they ignore that, they were more than happy. They were more than willing to, fuck and have those kids, but they're not really, too interested in being responsible enough to raise those kids up to be good human beings. Pay attention to those kids. Let's give them a cell phone. Let's give them a tablet. Let's give them a tablet at 9 years old, so that I don't have to deal with my child, so I don't have to listen to it, so I don't have to raise it, so I don't have to be a responsible parent. And then let's wonder when that child gets older and is absolutely a fucking nightmare. Let's wonder, well, I don't know why that happened. Well, I've got a good idea why that happened. We got a really good idea why that happened. So yeah, Frankenberry, we're not going to get the calls today. I'm sorry, guys, we're not, because we're bitching about this stuff. But I think it sets up tomorrow's show to call the Laurel PD. We'll do that out of the gate, and then we'll move over into Jeff Campbell, because that's really important. It's really important how someone that is a teacher can want to rape, fantasize about raping children, and the only consequence for that individual is that he can no longer be a coach, that he's still a teacher, but he can no longer be a coach. There's something horribly wrong that is the only consequence. So he's still able to fantasize, prey upon children, and maybe even be raping children. The Perry County Board of Education know about it, and they're okay with it, just as long as you're no longer a coach. There's something wrong with that. So we're going to handle that tomorrow as well. All right, I'm going to go through these comments, because I think we're having a really good discussion. I think we're having a really good discussion. Okay. Lori, yes, we're all hurt by this. Hurt because we're all family on this show, and we are absolutely a family on this show. Frankenberry, they should not be above the law. They broke the law. They assaulted that man knowing he had autism, then made fun of it. Those are not people. They are heartless shells of human. Absolutely right. We love you, Brett. Stay strong, for God's sakes. And so you guys, shit, you see me. It's not like you don't know what I'm thinking. It's not like you don't know what I'm feeling about things. I don't hide that shit. I don't do that. You're going to know. You're going to know out of the gate what I think about you, what I think about a situation, anything else like that. You're going to know that. And, Francis and I were talking the other night after, talking about the bigotry and things that I talked about on the show the other day. And, at the same time, I'm very, sometimes I'll get frustrated. Sometimes someone will give me some feedback, and I will know they're saying the right feedback. They're telling me the truth. I will know that. I know. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, and I'll get frustrated. I might argue back a little bit, or a lot. And then after that, I'll go off in my little cubby hole, and I'll mope for a couple of minutes. And I'll say, "Fuck, they were right," and I'll come back and tell them they're right, and apologize for being frustrated. but I get there. All right, I get there, and a lot of the times I'm open as it is. All right, but sometimes I get a little. I don't want to hear the truth, and I talked about that, right? And sometimes we don't want to know the truth. Sometimes we don't, but it's important that we get there. You know, we're not all perfect. We're not all open all the time. You know, we got our pride to worry about. You have to stick to your guns, Brett. Never let money be the primary driver for any decision. The love of money is the root of evil. That's in the book. That's in the book. It's not that money is evil. It's the love of it. It's the love of it. Money can't do anything, but your greed, your pride, the thirst for it, the letting it guide or determine your moral compass, that is a problem. People that know you know the significant changes you have made. The people that continue to only see you through that lens of the past, that's a them problem, not a you problem. Keep rising. And that should be gospel right there. That should be gospel right there. I said the other day that I am, and I got that from that Keith Yackey post on Facebook. He said, I am the problem. I am the solution. You are where you are in life because of your choices, and you can choose to change that. And Francis is right there. I mean, the way that people view you, if you're making those strides, and you know, like I think it was Roger Begley that said he has the right mindset. You know, if you know different, you know it, and you can see that change, and people around you can see that change, and they acknowledge that someone out there still despises you or hates you, that's not your issue. That's their issue. Fact. That's their issue. All right. That's why I keep preaching about, or I'm not a preacher, but that's what I keep saying about value should not come from the way that people see you. You should not determine your worth as a human being because of the way that you are viewed by the outside. That value should be inherent and then come out from there. That someone likes you as a plus, it's not a necessity at all, at all. And if you are liked by everyone, let me tell you, that's a problem. I mean, yeah, it shows you got an issue somewhere. At least that's my thought. All right, let's see what else we got. It's hard when people still use our pasts and wrongdoings against us and refuse to see the change and great right things we're doing with our lives today. And I agree, Stephanie. Thank you so much for saying that. Being able to have a connection like that is a real blessing. What you do when you can't do the right thing, but it has to be, what do you do when you can't do the right thing, but it has to be done? You always have a choice. I hear people all the time, criminals, addicts, people who make really bad decisions. You'll hear them say, I didn't have any choice in the matter. Yeah, you did. You did. That's the same thing as saying, well, I wasn't thinking when I did it. Yeah, you were. You were. The only way you're not thinking is if you're dead. All right? You were thinking. You were. You had a choice. Well, I had to break the law. No, you didn't. You didn't. You chose to. All right? So there's always a choice. Now, sometimes, a lot of times, those choices may be a lot of negative choices, but you always have a choice. And not doing anything is still a choice. It's still a choice. You know, not speaking out, not protecting someone, not doing the right damn thing. That is still a choice. You're choosing to not do anything, to be wallowing in self-pity instead of getting off your ass and doing something about it. That is still a choice. You've got the choices. So there's no such thing as not having choice at the end of the day. Howard Sumner, I hope you get it, man. I do. And damn it, you deserve to be mayor a hell of a lot more than Donald Happy Mavolini or William Sloan. Brett, we're here. We're all here for you. If you need someone to talk to, reach out to us. We're all your family. Now, you've been a blessing to us all, and thank you. Thank you. Jennifer Cook, good morning. Brandy Nicole Fuller, thank you for bringing up this horrible treatment of the animals in the shelter. And we will handle, so tomorrow, that was going to be today's show, was the Laurel County PD. And I'll bring the puppet out tomorrow, because that's important. The Laurel County PD, then it was going to be Jeff Campbell, and then it was going to be the animal shelter, okay? That didn't happen today because of the way the show started. I did not know that I was going to have that type of emotional response, or we were going to have that type of conversation today. But I think it's a good thing. I really do. And I think it gives a lot of weight to the show that we'll have tomorrow. And we are going to be absolutely blistering tomorrow. If you think that I have roasted the asses of Happy and Scott and Noah and all these other assholes, if you think that I've done that before, you wait until we get on the phone and start this shit tomorrow. I promise you, I don't think that anyone is ever going to see anything like it, because I really believe that this sets up exactly what this show and what I've been trying to say that we try to accomplish on this show. Positive, belligerent, foul-mouthed, effective, a family, a unit, us. I really believe that tomorrow's show is going to absolutely, that today's show complements that in a way that will be very effective. All right. Here. KPP Tim understands. Francis, you're amazing. Thank goodness for you. Brett needs us all. Folks who are willing to assassinate Brett's character are doing the same thing to others. It's a mirror of our own demons. Hey, they love you, Francis. Hey, look, when you come on the show, I don't know if you still watch it or not. When you gonna come on the show? That's what I want to know. Zach Thomas sent you something. If you want a good laugh, I'll look at it as soon as I'm off the show, Zach. All right. Your inner child needs a little extra love today. I'm betting she's talking to me. Give it to him. Let him cry. From that, he will continue to heal. Yeah. You are someone who chooses to speak up and speak out. Thank you. Can't wait to hear the stuff about the animal shelter. And again, I apologize that we did not get to any of those phone calls today. Sometimes that shit happens. Sometimes it happens. Rowdy Howard, hope you're doing good. Brett, prayers for you and your family. Much love your way. Thank you. Truly, and back at you. Scroll down because we need to close things out today. Shanoa Wooten. My heart cannot take much more. If this pyramid doesn't flip soon, I'm going to have a stroke. Look, gentlemen, please do not stroke out on us. All right. I don't know if somebody's got a wooden spoon there that you may need to bite down on, but please don't stroke out on us. I promise that things will lighten up a bit. All right. I promise they will. They're already doing that a little bit. I'm going to leave you with that before I close out the show. I'm going to leave you with that Rowan County inmate story, because it's it's much lighter. All right. And we got a hoot out of that. So, Tammy Miller, what they should do is cuff those cops like they done him and let him beat the crap out of them. This is a sad world we live in. And the problem with that is that oftentimes these cops and people in positions of power, they do this to other people, yet the people that they do it to would never do that to someone else. They would never do that to anybody else. And that's a lot of the problem. That's a lot of the problem. I mean, you get somebody that would, by and large, treat another human being as they would like to be treated, and yet they're victimized by assholes. That's a lot of the problem. All right. Man saying right here, faith, hope, love. But the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians 13:13. And so here's a story for you. If Carol Combs is watching, she can affirm this. I was at Dilscombs High School, and I've got a pretty decent voice. Of course I do. So I've got a good voice even back then. And I was, it was a Christmas show. I'm supposed to say this verse. Well, I mean, I was saying it. I was in the heat of the moment. The band was behind me. So I'm like, faith, hope, love, charity. And I realized that I added 4 things, right? And I think the verse says faith, hope, love, these 3. And I was like, faith, hope, love, charity, these 4. But the greatest of these is love. And it goes on like that. So I'm after the show. I'm like, nobody will notice. It's fine. Carol Combs, Robert Campbell come up to me. That was really good, Brett. I was like, thank you. I thought it was very good too. That was really good, Brett. We really like how you rewrote the Bible. I'm like, I was like, you noticed that, did you? And they're like, yeah, we noticed that. I was like, no one else noticed it, though, did they? And they didn't. But those two absolutely noticed it. Just thought I'd share that with you. All right. Francis Everidge. One of those cops even says, my niece has autism. Despicable. Yet they wonder why people take the law into their own hands. So what I wanted to do, what I was planning on, and we'll do this tomorrow. We'll absolutely do it. Part of, I think sometimes these little bits, like the Chris Jones shit, that's off the cuff. I'm literally making that shit up as I go along. And I like the bullheaded clap. I think both those are great bits, but they're both off the cuff. Sometimes I will actually think of moments that I need to incorporate in the show. And it hit me yesterday. I was like, we're going to call the Laurel PD. And what I want to do is I want to call the Laurel PD. And I want to talk to the cop that gave those other 2 cops a choice. And we're going to hammer that cop, make no mistake. But at some moment during that, I want to try to incorporate, asking if he has any other deputies that he can send out to us, because I know someone that has that is autistic, and I would like to see them slapped around a little bit, and just to see how that plays. And then I wanted to get the puppet down during Jeff Campbell, and we'll talk about how Jeff can show on the puppet where the no-no spots, because that's the kind of shit that leaves an image in people's minds. So yeah, I mean, I don't do anything on this show without intent and purpose. Anything. Everything has a reason. Everything has a point. A lot of it's off the cuff. But everything has a point. Everything. So pay attention here. This guy that's slapping this other guy around, that's brutalizing him, he has a niece that has autism. He knows what that is. He knows that. Yet he's still doing this to this person, knowing what autism is, and he's getting a lot of enjoyment doing it. That speaks volumes. Speaks volumes. Okay. Scroll on down. Frankie Barry, I'll check the messages. I see what you say here. You should check the messages. I'll do that as soon as I'm off the show. All right. And it's going to be just in, 5 minutes, something like that. Okay. The puppet is better than Jeff Dunham. I had that damn thing made. I had it made 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. And it was going to be a cybersecurity show, and public was going to come in and talk about cybersecurity and passwords and all this other bullshit. Never got around to it. And I was going to take puppet classes. They were offering some classes in Atlanta. I was going to take some puppet classes so I could do things right and all that, and I just never did. And then this show becomes what it is now, and I'm like, shit! And I see a use for a puppet. And I think the puppet's pretty cool these days. I like the puppet. I like incorporating the guy every now and then. This show is always great. Well, I appreciate everything you do. And Howard, we appreciate you. And thank you so much. I truly mean that. Let's see what else we got. All right. So I'm at the end of today's comments. I'm going to close it out with this show. We're talking about a lot of police brutality. I escaped from prison. Of course, I prefer not to think of it as escape. I've said that before. I think of it as the institution could no longer benefit me. So hold on just a second. Just a second. There's my girlfriend. Hold on a second. She doesn't know she's about to be live. Really? She just texted me and went to voicemail. And went to voicemail again. What the hell? Hold on, let me text her real quick. 10:38. 6 minutes ago. No, it's 3 minutes ago. Answer the phone. I'm not going to stop dialing until she answers. Got to tell the story. Just a couple of minutes. Closing out the show. Excuse me. I know no one's supposed to do this on the air, but it happens sometimes. All right, closing show now. All right. Okay, so I escaped prison, all right? I prefer not to think of it as escape. I think of it as the institution could no longer benefit me, so I decided to release myself on my own recognizance. I got caught. Of course I did, because everyone gets caught. I just rolled the dice, and I lost. I crapped out. Anyway, I escaped. When you escape, they don't take you back to the federal prison. You have to go through the county again or the federal holding unit until you get prosecuted for the escape. Okay, so my initial incarceration was in Lexington, Kentucky. Then they transferred me down to Rowan County, Moorhead, Kentucky, and I was in the county jail there for I don't know, a few months. Okay, a few months. Now, Rowan County Jail, it wasn't a round pod. You had like a room that had a great room in it. Then you had 4 doors in there, okay? And Pookie's wanting to make an appearance while I tell the story of Brian. And Brian, hey, Pook, how you doing? You all right, you buddy? You all right? Okay. You gonna let me tell this story? You don't mind, do you? Is that okay with you? I know. Say hello to everybody. Say hello, I'm Pookie. Say I'm Pookie. Hey, yo, buddy. I know it, little guy. Yeah. All right, so now you lay right there. I'm going to tell this story. All right, so Brian, I forgot his last name. Brian was a fellow who he was mentally challenged, disabled. I don't know what was wrong with him, but he was. They had him on Seroquel and Thorazine, and of course he would act like he was taking the pills, and sometimes he wouldn't. And when he wasn't, he would get a little loud and a little belligerent, and he did not like being incarcerated, as no one does. So anyway, one day, Brian, he's raising hell. He's outside of his cell, and what happened? Like I said, you had a round unit, but they were separated into rooms or into little pods. In the center, you had the control room with the guards, and they were able to look into each room because you had a big-ass window there, all right? And inside of that room, at the wall, there were 4 doors, and that's where, I think, 2 people were in each room. So you had 8 people in a pod that circled the control tower, all right? So Brian's out there in the TV room with us, and he's raising hell. I mean, that son of a bitch, he's going at it. He absolutely is. And the guards, I mean, he's talking shit about the guards. He's talking about their moms. He's talking about their daughters. He's talking about them. He's raising hell. And we are watching, and we're having a fun time doing that. That's what we're doing. So the guards come over the speaker. Brian, you need to calm your ass down. And he's like, fuck you. I'm not calming a damn thing down. Come and get me. So like, Brian, if you don't calm your ass down, we're going to come and get you. And he's like, fuck you guys. Load up. Send in the Ninja Turtles. So the Ninja Turtles, Those are the guards. They put on their tactical gear. They put on their little green bodysuit and they get the shields and they got the little helmet and the sticks. They put all that shit on. So he knows they're coming. He knows they're coming. So what he does is he goes into his room. Now, we are all out in the great room. He goes into his room. He closes the door. He strips naked. And on commissary, you could buy Cheese Whiz. And he had a couple, 3 jars of this stuff. So he takes the Cheese Whiz, and the first thing he does, because the door to his cell, it wouldn't lock, it has a window on it, like a window, has a window where you look into it. So he takes the Cheese Whiz and he smears on the window so the guards can't see in it anymore. All right, that's what he does. Now he's naked. And then he takes the remaining Cheese Whiz and he smears it all over his body. So he's covered naked with Cheese Whiz. All right. Now, at the same time, the Ninja Turtles are coming in. And the thing is, they mean to intimidate you. That's the entire thing. So they come in heavy. You got 5, 6 of these son of bitches, all in their bodysuits, all after Brian. And Brian's like, 6'2", 6'3". He's heavy. And he is belligerent. He's angry. And he's naked. And he's covered in cheese. So they come in. They tell us to go to our rooms. And we're like, we don't go to our cells. Instead, we just kind of, get back toward the back. And we're watching this shit. So they open up the door. There's Brian naked, dick swinging, covered in cheese, looking at him. And they're like, Brian, come on out. And he's like, you son of a bitches, come and get me. So first thing they do, here's what happens. First thing they do, they take the pepper spray. Big old can of it, spray the shit out of him. All right. What does he do? He gets a face full of pepper spray, immediately runs to the toilet, starts washing it off. The problem is that it's in a small room. You've got 5 or 6 guards in here at the time. They've got pepper spray that they've already sprayed. So the guards are feeling the effects of the pepper spray because it's a small closed room. Idiots have sprayed them. They've then walked in the room with all the pepper spray in the air. Brian is actually in better shape than they are because he's washed that shit out. They've not. So they start to try to grab the son of a bitch. He's got cheese all over him. They can't grab him. So they're slipping, sliding, trying to grab everything else. He's beating the absolute dog shit out of him. Is exactly what he's doing. About 5 of these guys at the same time because they can't grab him. They're suffering from pepper spray, and he's winning. You don't win long term, though. Now, like I said, Brian was a little slow, and they finally, this went on for a good 5-10 minutes. Finally, they get him down on the ground and subdue his ass and beat the ever-loving dog shit out of the guy. Put him in, for people who it's like a posy chair. It's a chair they strap you down in where you can't move. They strapped him down in that, and they broke a few of his fingers and stuff like that. But I still remember that story. And I still remember that just for a moment there. Just for a moment. Brian had won that battle. And I still remember that cheese. And I still remember the look of that naked Brian. Red, covered with anger, dick swinging, cheese all over him. And those cops crying because they had pepper sprayed themselves. So yeah, sometimes you get some nice thoughts coming in prison. My name is Brett Johnson. This is the Brett Johnson Show. Tomorrow, I promise we'll make those phone calls. The show notes that we had today, those will take place tomorrow. Guys, I thank you for putting up with me today. I think we had a good show that I didn't know was going to happen. I think it was beneficial. I think it sets up properly for tomorrow as well. My name is Brett Johnson. This is the Brett Johnson Show. I truly view every one of you as family, even those out there who hate Brett Johnson and hate always talking about you still family. You can't pick your family. You can pick your nose. All right. Still love you guys. We are Eastern Kentucky. But, it extends outside of that. It extends outside of that. We are Eastern Kentucky, and we are a proud people. We are. We do stand tall. even though sometimes we forget to. We stand tall and we do the right thing, even though sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we don't, but we do it. We by and large, we do the right thing. And I really believe that we have had enough. I really do. This show means something. We had the comment just a few minutes ago. We are a family. We are. This is what family is. Even though it may not be blood, this is what family is. And this, we're doing something that is meaningful. And sometimes we have a hoot doing it. All right. And I think tomorrow we'll have a hoot doing it as well. All right. We ran long as we always do. I appreciate truly the comments of the show today. I really believe made the show. I truly do. You guys have a good day. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully, I got a lot of stuff going on the personal side too. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be more on time-ish. All right. So until tomorrow, this is Brett Johnson Show. What do we say? Just do the right damn thing. Until tomorrow, 9-ish a.m. Eastern, I'm Brett Johnson. Take care.